Imagine sitting in a stadium, watching history unfold pitch by pitch. One man stood on the edge of immortality, a no-hitter within reach. The crowd held its breath, every strike bringing them closer to perfection. But then, with one single swing, everything shattered. Dreams collapsed, hearts sank, and silence fell. Yet, just when hope seemed lost, baseball reminded us why it's the most unpredictable drama on earth. The final at-bat turned despair into glory. The no bid was gone, but the walk-off turned the night into legend. This wasn't just a game. This was a movie, and tonight, we're going to relive every heart-stopping moment. When the Los Angeles Dodgers stepped onto the field to face the Baltimore Orioles, no one in the crowd could have predicted just how cinematic the night would become. The stadium lights were burning bright, the tension was heavy in the air, and fans packed into their seats with a sense of anticipation. Baseball has always been called America's pastime, but on nights like this, it becomes something much more, a theater of drama, suspense, heartbreak, and triumph. From the very first pitch, it was clear that this game was not going to be ordinary. The Dodgers' starting pitcher had his rhythm, his fastball exploding into the catcher's mitt with a sound that echoed through the stadium. Strike one, strike two, strike three. Orioles batters were falling quickly, unable to make solid contact. With each inning that passed, the whispers grew louder. Could this be the night we witness history? A no-hitter is one of the rarest feats in all of Major League Baseball. To see it unfolding in real time was electrifying. By the third inning, the Orioles dugout looked restless. Players leaned on the railing, their eyes following every pitch, searching desperately for a weakness. But the Dodgers pitcher was locked in, painting the corners, changing speeds, and controlling the tempo. The Dodgers' defense backed him up perfectly, a diving stop at third base, a leaping grab in the outfield, smooth double plays that drew roars from the crowd. Every play made the possibility of a no bid more realistic, and fans were living and breathing with every moment. As the game rolled into the middle innings, the tension thickened. The Orioles hitters began to adjust, trying to disrupt the pitch's rhythm. They fouled off tough pitches, stretched at bats, and forced the count deeper. But the Dodgers' battery didn't flinch. The pitcher would step off the mound, take a deep breath, and then deliver another dart straight into the strike zone. By the sixth inning, the scoreboard still showed 0 hits allowed. The atmosphere inside the ballpark was unlike anything else. You could feel thousands of people holding their breath at once, afraid to speak too loudly, afraid to jinx the moment. Then came the turning point. In baseball, perfection is fragile. One mistake, one swing, one unlucky bounce can change everything. The Orioles' leadoff batter in the seventh inning dug into the box with determination. He had been fooled twice earlier, but this time he connected. A sharp line drive rocketed into right field. The crowd gasped as the ball screamed toward the grass, but the Dodgers outfielder launched himself into the air, glove outstretched. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then, with a thud, the ball landed in leather. Out. The no-hitter was still alive, and the stadium erupted in pure joy. But baseball has its own way of humbling even the greatest performances. In the eighth inning, with 2 outs, an Orioles hitter finally broke through. A well-placed fastball was turned on, shot down the line, and skipped into the corner for a double. Just like that, the no bid was gone. The crowd sighed, the pitcher lowered his head, and the Orioles bench came alive. The dream of a no-hitter had vanished, but the drama was only beginning. Because once the no-hitter was broken, the game transformed. The Orioles gained momentum, stringing together hits and forcing the Dodgers to fight back. What had been a near-perfect performance was suddenly a battle for survival. Both teams were now locked in a duel, trading blows inning after inning. Fans were no longer quiet. They were roaring, clapping, stomping their feet, and demanding more. As the ninth inning approached, the game was tied. The Orioles had clawed back, refusing to be silenced, and the Dodgers knew they needed something spectacular to seal the win. The tension in the stadium was unbearable. Every fan was on their feet, cell phones out, ready to capture what they hoped would be a legendary finish. The Dodgers dugout buzzed with energy, players pacing, coaches whispering strategies. And then, the walk-off moment. The Dodgers batter stepped into the box, the weight of the entire game on his shoulders. The pitcher stared him down, wound up, and delivered. Crack! The sound of the bat meeting the ball echoed like thunder. The ball soared high into the outfield, the crowd screaming as it carried farther and farther. The outfielders sprinted back, their eyes locked on the sky, but it was too late. The ball landed beyond their reach. The walk-off was complete. The stadium exploded into chaos. Fans leapt over seats, waving their arms, hugging strangers. The Dodgers poured out of the dugout, mobbing the hero at home plate, throwing helmets into the air, and spraying water bottles like champagne. The Orioles stood stunned, hearts broken, knowing they had fought with everything but still came up short. For those watching on ESPN, for the fans in the stands, and for baseball lovers everywhere, this wasn't just a game, it was a movie. It had all the elements: suspense, heartbreak, comeback, and triumph. From a near no-hitter to a dramatic walk-off, this Dodgers-Orioles game will be remembered for years to come. The moment the ball cleared the outfielder's reach and the Dodgers sealed the walk-off, the sound inside the stadium was unlike anything else in sports. It wasn't just cheering, it was a roar of disbelief, of adrenaline, of shared history. Thousands of voices merged into one deafening sound, as if the entire city of Los Angeles had been waiting for this exact moment. For the fans who had been sitting silently during the no bid, afraid to break the spell, this was pure release. They screamed, jumped, and threw their hands into the air. Some cried tears of joy, others laughed hysterically, and many simply stood frozen, unable to believe what they had witnessed. Baseball has always been about emotion as much as statistics, and this was proof. The television broadcast on ESPN captured every angle. The camera zoomed in on the Dodgers dugout as players sprinted toward home plate, piling onto the hero of the night. Helmets flew, jerseys were ripped, and smiles stretched wider than ever. The slow-motion replays showed the swing, the arc of the ball, and the instant when the crowd realized it was over. In the commentary booth, voices cracked with excitement. Unbelievable. From a no-hitter to a walk-off, you couldn't script this better in Hollywood. Social media lit up instantly. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok flooded with clips of the walk-off. Fans wrote that they had chills watching live, while others who missed it scrambled to find highlights. The phrase, Dodgers versus Orioles, trended worldwide within minutes. People weren't just talking about a baseball game, they were talking about an experience. For the Orioles, it was heartbreak. They had fought their way back into the game, breaking the no bid and forcing the Dodgers into a corner. For a brief moment, they had momentum. But in baseball, momentum can vanish in a single swing. Their dugout stood silent, players staring into the distance, knowing they had given everything but still walked away empty-handed. That's the cruelty and beauty of the sport. As analysts discussed the game afterward, one theme kept repeating: this was baseball at its absolute finest. It reminded fans why they endure the long season, why they sit through slow games, and why they never give up until the final out. Because in one night, in one inning, the game can transform into something unforgettable. From a no-hitter dream to a walk-off reality, this game wasn't just statistics in a box score. It was a memory etched into the hearts of every fan who saw it. And that's why people said, this Dodgers-Orioles ending wasn't just baseball, it was a movie. In the clubhouse after the game, the Dodgers players could hardly contain their excitement. The hero of the walk-off was mobbed by reporters, microphones pushed in his face as flashing cameras captured his every smile. He laughed, still trying to process what had just happened, and admitted, that felt like something out of a dream. We were battling all night, and to come through for my team in that moment, it's unreal. His teammates echoed that sentiment. One veteran said, I've played a lot of games in this league, but you don't get nights like this often. A no bid, the tension, and then the walk-off. That's why we love this game. Another added, you don't write scripts like this, the game writes them for you. On the other side of the stadium, the Orioles were quieter. Their manager spoke carefully to the press, acknowledging both the disappointment and the fight his team had shown. We battled, he said. We broke up the no-hitter, we clawed our way back into it, and we gave ourselves a chance. But baseball is unforgiving. One swing, and it's over. That's the game. Players nodded silently beside him, still stung by the loss but knowing they had been part of something historic. What stood out most was the mutual respect. Even in defeat, Orioles players tipped their caps to the Dodgers' performance. Likewise, Dodgers veterans gave credit to Baltimore for their resilience and fight. These are the moments that transcend wins and losses, moments when both sides know they've been part of something fans will never forget. Baseball historians and analysts quickly began to compare this game to other legendary matchups. Some called it one of the most dramatic regular season endings of the past decade. Others highlighted the unique combination, a no-hitter attempt followed by a walk-off victory. That blend of near history and instant euphoria doesn't happen often, and when it does, it becomes etched into the collective memory of the sport. Fans, too, knew they had witnessed something rare. Social media was filled with stories from parents who brought their kids to the game, saying, "They'll remember this night forever." Others joked that the game was so cinematic it should win an Oscar. The phrase, "baseball is a movie," wasn't just a metaphor, it was exactly how people felt. As the dust settled, one thing was clear: this Dodgers-Orioles clash wasn't just another entry in the standings. It was proof of why baseball endures. The season is long, the grind is relentless, but nights like these remind us why every pitch matters. Because in an instant, everything can change, and you'll find yourself witnessing a story. By the following morning, headlines across the country captured the magic of the Dodgers-Orioles showdown. Sports pages used words like epic, Hollywood ending, and a night to remember. Television highlights replayed the walk-off again and again, each time reminding fans of the emotional rollercoaster they had just witnessed. ESPN analysts dissected every pitch of the no-no bid, pointing out the precision and composure of the Dodgers starter. They praised his dominance, while also highlighting how fragile baseball can be, how a single swing can shatter perfection. But rather than disappointment, the narrative shifted quickly towards celebration. Even though the no-hitter didn't happen, one commentator said, "We got something even better, drama that will live forever." In Los Angeles, fans wore the Dodgers caps with extra pride the next day. Coffee shops, offices, and classrooms buzzed with conversation about the game. People who weren't even baseball diehards found themselves swept up in the excitement, replaying clips on their phones and sharing reactions online. It was more than just a win, it was a shared cultural moment for the city. Baltimore fans, meanwhile, carried mixed feelings. On one hand, there was frustration at letting the game slip away. On the other, there was admiration for their team's resilience. Breaking up the no-hitter had given them hope, and forcing the Dodgers to fight until the final swing proved the Orioles were not a team to be overlooked. Their season would continue, and this game would serve as fuel, a reminder of how close they had come to spoiling a magical night in Los Angeles. For Major League Baseball as a whole, this game became instant marketing gold. Highlight reels spread not only across the US but internationally, sparking conversations among fans in Japan, Korea, Latin America, and beyond. Baseball thrives on stories, and this was one of the best, a duel between two proud franchises, capped by one of the sport's most thrilling finishes. Historians pointed out that this wasn't just another walk-off. The rare combination of a no-hitter chase and a game-ending hit elevated it into a category of its own. "It's the kind of story you'll tell your kids about years from now," one analyst said. "Not because of the stats, but because of the feeling. You'll remember where you were, who you were with, and how it made you feel." And that is the magic of baseball. A single night in September, between the Dodgers and Orioles, became a narrative larger than sports. It was tension, heartbreak, resilience, and joy wrapped into one. From the silence of a no-no bid to the eruption of a walk-off, it was the essence of why fans keep coming back, because on any given night, baseball can give you a story worth remembering forever. The walk-off wasn't just the final play of a baseball game, it was the climax of a story that had been building for hours. Inside the stadium, the energy lingered long after the last pitch. Fans refused to leave. Many stood at their seats, taking pictures of the scoreboard as if they wanted to preserve proof that they had been part of history. Others gathered in small groups, reliving every pitch, every defensive play, and every at-bat. Outside, the streets near Dodger Stadium were alive with celebration. Cars honked their horns, fans waved flags and jerseys, and street vendors couldn't keep up with the demand for late-night snacks as people stayed to celebrate. Los Angeles, a city that thrives on entertainment, had just been gifted a real-life script more thrilling than any blockbuster movie. Meanwhile, sports radio stations lit up with callers sharing their emotions. Some said it was the best game they had ever attended in their lives. Others compared it to legendary postseason moments, despite being a regular season clash. One fan, his voice trembling with excitement, said, "I brought my son tonight, and he saw something he'll never forget. He doesn't understand the stats yet, but he understands the magic. That was the kind of game it was. It created lifelong memories." On television, replays dominated the late-night highlight shows. Analysts pointed out the psychological shift that occurred after the no-no bid was broken. The Orioles, once on the brink of being silenced, found energy and fought back. But the Dodgers, instead of folding, responded with grit. That back and forth made the ending even more powerful. The drama wasn't confined to Los Angeles. In Baltimore, Orioles fans gathered around their TVs felt both pride and pain. Messages on fan forums praised their team for breaking up the no-hitter and pushing the Dodgers to the edge. Yet the heartbreak of losing on a walk-off stung deeply. One fan wrote, "This loss hurts, but you can't deny what a game it was. Baseball doesn't get better than this." The walk-off wasn't just the final play of a baseball game, it was the climax of a story that had been building for hours. Inside the stadium, the energy lingered long after the last pitch. Fans refused to leave. Many stood at their seats, taking pictures of the scoreboard as if they wanted to preserve proof that they had been part of history. Others gathered in small groups, reliving every pitch, every defensive play, and every at-bat. Outside, the streets near Dodger Stadium were alive with celebration. Cars honked their horns, fans waved flags and jerseys, and street vendors couldn't keep up with the demand for late-night snacks as people stayed to celebrate. Los Angeles, a city that thrives on entertainment, had just been gifted a real-life script more thrilling than any blockbuster movie. Meanwhile, sports radio stations lit up with callers sharing their emotions. Some said it was the best game they had ever attended in their lives. Others compared it to legendary postseason moments, despite being a regular season clash. One fan, his voice trembling with excitement, said, "I brought my son tonight, and he saw something he'll never forget. He doesn't understand the stats yet, but he understands the magic. That was the kind of game it was. It created lifelong memories." On television, replays dominated the late-night highlight shows. Analysts pointed out the psychological shift that occurred after the no-no bid was broken. The Orioles, once on the brink of being silenced, found energy and fought back. But the Dodgers, instead of folding, responded with grit. That back and forth made the ending even more powerful. The drama wasn't confined to Los Angeles. In Baltimore, Orioles fans gathered around their TVs felt both pride and pain. Messages on fan forums praised their team for breaking up the no-hitter and pushing the Dodgers to the edge. Yet the heartbreak of losing on a walk-off stung deeply. One fan wrote, "This loss hurts, but you can't deny what a game it was. Baseball doesn't get better than this." In the days that followed, the Dodgers-Orioles game became a benchmark for storytelling in sports. Reporters described it as the kind of game that reminds you why you watch baseball. For the Dodgers, it was proof of their ability to perform under pressure, a quality they would need if they hoped to make a deep playoff run. For the Orioles, it was a test of resilience that would shape the young roster. Players reflected on the game with awe. The Dodgers pitcher, who had carried the no-no bid into the late innings, admitted it was bittersweet. "You dream about throwing a no-hitter," he said, "but if I had to lose it, I'm glad we still won the game." That's the bigger picture. His humility resonated with fans, reminding them that baseball is as much about the team as it is about individual achievements. The hitter who delivered the walk-off became an overnight hero. Fans chanted his name in the following games, and kids lined up to get autographs, holding posters that read, "Walk-off Legend." His swing had transformed him into a symbol of clutch performance, and his teammates celebrated him not only for the hit but for carrying the weight of the moment with grace. Baltimore's clubhouse, while subdued, turned reflective. Younger players spoke about how they had learned from the experience. "It's tough, but you grow from nights like this," one rookie said. "We went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams, and we proved we belong." That mindset turned the loss into motivation, fueling the Orioles' push through the remainder of the season. This duality, triumph for one side and heartbreak for the other, is what made the game so gripping. It wasn't just about winning or losing. It was about growth, about character, and about the way sports can elevate human emotion into something unforgettable. Historians quickly began ranking the game among the greatest regular season matchups in recent memory. Articles appeared comparing it to walk-offs from the past, debating where it fit in MLB lore. While postseason games often dominate highlight reels, this Dodgers-Orioles clash proved that even in the grind of the regular season, pure magic can happen. The beauty of it lay in its unpredictability. For 6 innings, fans believed they were watching a no-hitter. Then, suddenly, the narrative shifted to a tight battle. Finally, in the blink of an eye, it turned into a walk-off celebration. That unpredictability is what separates baseball from scripted entertainment. It feels real because it is real, and no one knows how it will end until the final swing. Broadcasters replayed fan reactions as much as they replayed the hit itself. One camera captured a child holding his father's hand, eyes wide as the ball soared into the outfield. Another showed a group of lifelong fans hugging tightly, jumping up and down in joy. Those human reactions were as powerful as the athletic feats, and they told the story better than numbers ever could. The Orioles fan base, though disappointed, held their heads high. They reminded each other that baseball is a marathon, not a sprint, and that one painful loss could fuel greater victories down the line. In fact, some argued that being part of such a historic game, even in defeat, was a badge of honor. "We may have lost," one fan wrote online, "but the world saw our fight. And they'll remember us for it." For ESPN, the game was a gift. Ratings soared as fans tuned in to rewatch the highlights, and the network leaned into the drama. They branded the game as a Hollywood ending, running montages with cinematic music and dramatic slow motion. Clips of the no-no bid and the walk-off became viral sensations, pulling in fans who might not even follow baseball regularly. The Dodgers' social media team capitalized on the moment immediately. They posted behind-the-scenes footage from the dugout, showing players' raw reactions as the ball cleared the fence. Fans loved it, commenting that it made them feel like they were part of the team. The Orioles' accounts, though quieter, shared messages of pride and resilience, highlighting their pitchers' performance and the moment they broke up the no-hitter. Across the baseball world, players from other teams chimed in. Some congratulated the Dodgers, while others sympathized with the Orioles. A few simply marveled at the drama. "That's baseball at its finest," one all-star tweeted. "Games like this are why we play." Sports talk shows debated the impact. Was this a turning point in the Dodgers' season? Would the Orioles use it as motivation? Beyond the standings, though, the consensus was clear: this game was bigger than wins and losses. It was about the narrative, the theater, and the reminder that baseball can capture hearts like no other sport. For the city of Los Angeles, the game became a cultural moment. Local news stations covered it as if it were a major event, not just a sports result. They interviewed fans who said they felt like extras in a movie, their cheers becoming part of the soundtrack of the night. Restaurants near the stadium replayed the final swing on TV screens the next day, and conversations in grocery stores and barber shops all circled back to the same question: did you see that game? Baltimore, too, felt the ripple effect. While the Orioles didn't win, their fan base grew stronger, united by the shared experience of heartbreak. Some compared it to past near misses in franchise history, using it as fuel for hope. "Every great team goes through nights like this," one fan club leader said. "It's part of the journey." The national spotlight brought attention to both teams. For the Dodgers, it was validation of their star power. For the Orioles, it was proof that they belonged on the same stage. Analysts noted that the game wasn't just about baseball, it was about identity, pride, and the emotional investment of millions of fans. As time passed, the game began to take on legendary status. People didn't just remember the plays, they remembered the feelings. The quiet of the no-hitter chase, the tension as the Orioles fought back, and the eruption of joy at the walk-off all blended into a single memory. Documentary-style recaps started appearing online, complete with dramatic narration and cinematic editing. Fans uploaded their own vlogs, capturing their voices cracking as they shouted into their cameras, "I was there." For those who couldn't attend, the clips made them feel as though they had lived the experience. In the end, that is what baseball does best: it creates stories that live beyond the box score. The Dodgers and Orioles gave the world a gift that night, a reminder that even in a long season, magic can strike without warning. From no bid to walk-off, the game was more than baseball, it was poetry in motion. Inside the Dodgers clubhouse after the game, the atmosphere was electric. Players laughed, sprayed water bottles in celebration, and exchanged hugs that reflected just how much the win meant. The walk-off hero was mobbed by teammates, his jersey half torn off in the frenzy of excitement. "It's nights like these that remind you why you play this game," he told reporters, his voice still trembling with adrenaline. The pitcher who carried the no bid deep into the game received equal praise, even though he didn't finish it off. Reporters crowded around his locker, asking how it felt to see perfection slip away so late. He smiled humbly, saying, "That's baseball. You respect the hitters, and you know they're fighting just as hard. I just wanted to give my team a chance to win." That attitude, grace in the face of missed history, earned him admiration not only from fans but also from analysts who highlighted his maturity. Meanwhile, across the hall, the Orioles clubhouse told a different story. Their manager reminded the team that they had battled fiercely, nearly spoiling a historic night. Several players expressed frustration at the final inning, admitting that the walk-off stung. Yet they also spoke with determination, promising to use the experience as motivation moving forward. One young player summed it up: "If we can go toe-to-toe with a team like the Dodgers, then we can compete with anyone." On social media, clips of the post-game interviews spread quickly. Fans admired the humility of the Dodgers pitcher, the passion of the walk-off hero, and even the honesty of the Orioles' responses. Hashtags related to the game trended for hours, with thousands of fans debating what the most unforgettable moment had been: the near no-hitter, the broken bid, or the climactic walk-off. Sports talk shows the next morning added even more fuel. Analysts replayed the Dodgers' dugout reactions, pointing out the raw emotion that poured out of the players as they jumped onto the field. They emphasized how moments like these build team chemistry, often sparking momentum that carries into the rest of the season. The Orioles, too, received credit for refusing to back down, proving themselves as worthy opponents. Behind the scenes, MLB media teams wasted no time producing highlight packages. By sunrise, fans around the world could stream a polished recap titled, "From Number No to Walk Off." The official MLB account even leaned into the cinematic theme, captioning a clip with, "This ending was straight out of a movie." The phrase stuck, repeated across fan pages, podcasts, and even mainstream news outlets. For the players themselves, though, the night was less about cinematic narratives and more about the human emotions of competition. Relief, frustration, joy, brotherhood, those feelings, amplified under the bright lights of Dodger Stadium, turned a regular season game into an eternal memory. In the days following the Dodgers-Orioles thriller, baseball historians and longtime fans began comparing the game to some of the sport's most legendary moments. Whenever a near no-hitter collides with a walk-off ending, the narrative naturally earns a place among the classics. For many, it evoked memories of iconic games from decades past, when drama unfolded in ways that felt almost scripted. Sports writers drew parallels to Sandy Koufax's perfect game in 1965, pointing out how Dodgers Stadium has long been the stage for historic pitching performances. Although this recent night didn't end in perfection, the intensity of the no bid carried echoes of those past feats. The mere possibility of witnessing history kept fans locked in, just as it had generations earlier. Others recalled the heartbreak of near misses, pitchers who stood on the cusp of immortality only to see it slip away with one swing. Names like Armando Galarraga came up, reminding fans of the thin line between eternal glory and a simple, "what if?" In the Dodgers' case, the loss of the no-hitter was quickly overshadowed by the joy of victory, but the emotional rhythm was the same: hope, tension, devastation, and redemption. Analysts on MLB Network created special segments, ranking the top 10 most dramatic regular season games of the last 20 years. Unsurprisingly, the Dodgers-Orioles showdown earned a high spot. They emphasized not only the baseball significance but also the entertainment value. "This is what grows the game," one commentator said. Even casual fans tuned in for the highlights because the ending was pure theater. Fans online kept drawing cinematic comparisons. One popular tweet read, "That wasn't a game, that was a 3-act play. dominance, despair, and triumph. Memes and fan edits flooded social platforms, blending slow-motion replays with dramatic movie soundtracks. The community treated the game less like a stat sheet and more like a cultural event, something bigger than baseball itself. The Orioles, too, became part of the narrative, remembered not just as opponents but as crucial characters in the drama. Baseball fans often say, "You can't write a story without a great antagonist," and Baltimore played that role perfectly, breaking the no-hitter, fighting until the very end, and forcing the Dodgers to earn every ounce of glory. For longtime MLB followers, the game reignited appreciation for the sport's unpredictability. Unlike basketball or football, where dominance can sometimes be overwhelming, baseball thrives on fragility. A pitcher can be untouchable for 8 innings and then undone by one swing. A team can look beaten and then rise in the final inning. This Dodgers-Orioles battle encapsulated that essence, reminding everyone why baseball is often called the game of inches. By the end of the week, writers were already labeling it one of the defining games of the season. Some even argued it belonged in the conversation of modern classics. While time will decide how it ranks historically, one thing was certain: those who witnessed it live would never forget it. For those lucky enough to be inside Dodger Stadium that night, the experience felt like living inside a movie. From the very first pitch, the atmosphere carried a special electricity, the kind that fans recognize but can never quite explain. The buzz of a potential no-hitter spread inning by inning, and with each out recorded, the crowd grew louder, more anxious, and more united. By the 6th inning, murmurs had turned into chants. Fans began standing after every 2-strike count, holding their breath as the pitcher delivered. Each swing and miss triggered roars that rolled across the stands like waves. Parents pointed excitedly for their children, whispering, "You might be seeing history tonight." It was as if the entire stadium collectively realized they were part of something rare. The tension peaked in the late innings. In the 8th, as the Orioles fought desperately to break the no-no bid, the ballpark fell into a kind of nervous silence. You could hear individual voices shouting encouragement from the upper decks. Every foul ball, every close call, felt magnified under the weight of what was at stake. When the Orioles finally got that first hit, the eruption was unlike anything else. Not a celebration, but an explosion of mixed emotions. Relief, shock, and disbelief all collided. Dodgers fans groaned, some holding their heads in their hands, while Orioles supporters jumped up as if they had just won the game themselves. Yet what made the night unforgettable was what came after. Instead of deflating, the crowd seemed to grow even louder, rallying behind their team. By the time the Dodgers came up for their final at-bat, the stadium was shaking. Fans clapped in unison, stomping on the concrete floors, chanting players' names with a fever that felt unstoppable. Then came the walk-off moment. The crack of the bat was almost drowned out by the eruption of cheers. Fireworks blasted into the night sky, confetti cannons fired from the outfield, and complete strangers hugged each other in the aisles. One fan later described it perfectly: "It felt like an earthquake of joy." Social media was filled with cell phone videos from every angle. The stands behind home plate, the bleachers, even the parking lot where latecomers heard the roar and rushed back inside. Each clip carried the same raw energy, pure, unfiltered celebration. For Orioles fans in attendance, the emotions were bittersweet. Many stood and applauded the Dodgers, acknowledging the magic of the moment despite the disappointment. Some even admitted afterward that, though they hated the loss, they were grateful to witness a game that would be talked about for years. Inside that stadium, time seemed to slow down. The no-hitter bid, the heartbreak, the redemption, and the explosion of joy blended into a single memory. For every fan in attendance, the night became a personal story to retell. "I was there when it happened." As the sun rose over different time zones, the Dodgers-Orioles game began making waves far beyond the United States. Sports fans across Asia, Latin America, and Europe woke up to headlines that described the contest as unbelievable, cinematic, and a masterpiece of baseball drama. What had started as a late-night showdown in Los Angeles quickly became a global talking point. In Japan and Korea, where baseball holds a deep cultural presence, morning sports shows dedicated entire segments to the game. Analysts marveled at the Dodgers' pitcher's near no-hitter and praised the Orioles' resilience. On Japanese Twitter, Fans compared the intensity to Nippon professional baseball classics, noting how MLB consistently delivers storylines that feel larger than life. One trending phrase translated roughly to, "from despair to glory in a single swing." Latin American fans, especially those from countries with strong baseball traditions like the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and Cuba, also joined the conversation. Many current MLB players from those nations posted reactions on Instagram, expressing admiration for both teams. A Venezuelan commentator summed it up: "This is why baseball unites the world, because no matter where you're from, you understand the emotions of this game." European coverage was more unusual. While baseball isn't the dominant sport there, major outlets like BBC Sport and Marca ran features on the game's dramatic ending, emphasizing its entertainment value. Clips circulated widely on TikTok, where even casual sports fans marveled at the walk-off, some commenting, "I don't usually watch baseball, but this felt like a movie." On YouTube, highlight videos garnered millions of views within 24 hours. The MLB official channel uploaded a recap titled, "From Number No to Walk-Off," echoing the cinematic theme that had already become a viral tagline. Fan-made compilations added dramatic music, slow-motion replays, and commentary overlays, further fueling the global buzz. Podcasts and sports radio shows across different languages picked up the story. In Spanish broadcasts, hosts emphasized the poetic balance of the game, how hope turned into heartbreak, only to become triumph in the end. Korean and Japanese outlets focused on the emotional discipline of the pitcher, admiring how he handled both dominance and disappointment. English-language shows, meanwhile, praised the universal drama, pointing out that this was the kind of content baseball needs to grow internationally. Perhaps the most striking evidence of the game's global impact was the flood of fan art, memes, and digital tributes shared online. Artists created posters that made the game look like a blockbuster film. Memes played on the theme of, "from almost perfect to perfectly unforgettable." For fans across the globe, this wasn't just a sports result, it was entertainment, culture, and history wrapped into one. By the end of the week, the Dodgers-Orioles game had transcended its box score. It became a worldwide symbol of why baseball matters, proving once again that the emotions of the sport translate across borders, languages, and cultures. In the weeks that followed, the Dodgers-Orioles clash continued to echo across Major League Baseball. What had seemed like just another late-season game quickly revealed itself as a defining moment for both franchises and several players involved. For the Dodgers starting pitcher, the near no-hitter became a career milestone. Though he didn't finish the feat, analysts agreed that the performance elevated his reputation to the next level. Scouts, commentators, and even rival players began calling him one of the league's most dangerous arms. More importantly, he earned the trust of his teammates, who knew that every time he took the mound, he could deliver brilliance. The walk-off hero's career also shifted gears. Walk-offs are memorable no matter the context, but doing it after nearly losing a no bid etched his name into Dodgers lore. His jersey sales spiked, kids began imitating his swing in backyard games, and fans flooded social media with highlight reels captioned simply, "the man of the moment." For him, that one swing became both a personal triumph and a permanent entry in team history. The Orioles, despite the loss, walked away with valuable momentum. Breaking up the no-hitter demonstrated resilience, while battling until the final out showcased the grit. The young core gained confidence from the experience, knowing they could compete against one of the strongest teams in baseball. Coaches and executives cited the game as a measuring stick, proof that the Orioles' rebuild was on the right track. On a larger scale, the game reshaped conversations about the MLB season. Sports writers and broadcasters continued referencing it weeks later, using it as a benchmark whenever discussing dramatic finishes. "It wasn't just a Dodgers win," one columnist wrote, "it was a story that reminded us why baseball is timeless." The narrative reached far beyond Los Angeles or Baltimore, it became a league-wide reference point. For fans, the long-term impact was emotional and cultural. Dodgers supporters carried the memory as a badge of honor, retelling it as one of the greatest nights in recent franchise history. Orioles fans, though on the losing side, still embraced the experience, knowing they had been part of something unforgettable. That shared memory, with its highs and lows, strengthened the connection between teams, players, and communities. From a business perspective, MLB benefited enormously. Ticket sales and TV ratings saw a noticeable bump in the weeks that followed, as casual viewers tuned in to see if they might witness another miracle. The cinematic nature of the game also sparked marketing campaigns, with MLB leaning heavily on the tagline, "Baseball, where stories like this happen." Ultimately, the long-term legacy of the Dodgers-Orioles showdown was not defined by the box score, but by its emotional impact. It was the type of game that would be replayed in documentaries, referenced in Hall of Fame speeches, and remembered by anyone lucky enough to witness it live. In a sport where thousands of games are played each season, only a few truly stand the test of time. This was one of them.